1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 20 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. There were so many aspects of our next interview, the book associated with our next interview, that I could relate to, that this is going to be a sweet interview, I think. George Hodgman is on the phone. He's a New York Times bestselling author. I think he's an editor for Simon & Schuster. I'm not reading my notes here. I think I remember reading that somewhere. His book is called Bettyville. It is a memoir. His mom, Betty, is who Betty is in the Bettyville title. And it sounds like he grew up in a small town called Paris, Missouri, and then moved to Manhattan. And in my own life, my family had moved from New York area. My mom and dad were big city folks. I, as a child, grew up on Long Island, so I wasn't quite the city kid, but we moved to a little town called Denellen. Everybody knows Denellen. So as I'm looking through the book, I'm thinking that Paris, Missouri must not be so different from Denellen, Florida. And small town is small town America. Small town America is small town America. And so I want to introduce you to George Hodgman. And the book, again, is called Bettyville. Good morning, George. How you doing?
Well, pretty well. Thank you for having me.
Hey, where are you calling from?
Paris, Missouri.
So you still out there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I am.
Tell me about your mom a little bit.
My mother was a very independent woman. She was a person who, wanted what she wanted when she wanted it. She was willing to work to get it. She was dry and funny and really pretty. And when I came home and found that she had failed so much, when I was trying to help her get through, all the things that dementia brings, I found out just how tough she was, how determined. She tried so hard to deal with this condition, and so I think at this part of her life, I liked her better and loved her more than I ever had.
That's you too, right? Everything you just described about your mother, maybe you don't want to see it that way, but that's you too, isn't it?
Well, I'm not very pretty, but
Wait a minute, I'm looking at your picture. You're not a bad-looking guy. You're not a bad-looking guy. In fact, you resemble your mother. I'm looking at the picture. Yeah.
Well, it's really hard. I think it's very hard for us to see our parents and ourselves. I certainly see other people's selves in their parents.
That's probably true.
I would be really happy to be Betty.
So tell me about Paris, Missouri. What's that like?
Well, it's probably in a certain way. It sounds like it might be like your town, but probably fewer palm trees and less good weather.
Right.
But it's a little town. I mean, the title Bettyville comes from a couple of things. One is that, it's a changed community in a lot of ways. Small towns are different in the modern contemporary world than they once were. They've lost a lot.
When did you leave?
And my mother is kind of exemplar of the old world. Bettyville is her old world.
Right. When did you leave Paris for New York City?
I left in 1983.
Okay.
I went away to college in 1977, but I left Missouri.
Did you leave because for professional reasons? You were seeking a career? Did you leave for any other reasons? And why New York of all the big cities you could have picked?
I always had a New York fantasy. I really wanted to live in New York and try that, and I wanted to be in publishing. I wanted to be in books or magazines, and that's where that is. And so I went to college in Columbia, Missouri. I went to graduate school at Boston College.
Yeah.
And then I went to New York. And then 25 years later, I came home.
When you went back to, when you got to re-know your mother, you got to re-know her, was there anything you wanted to be sure she knew before she either got too deep into dementia or passed away?
I wanted her to know that I really cared about her. I wanted her to know that I was there for her, and I wanted her to know that I didn't want her to be lonely.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a very lonely disease.
It's a sweet
head
sentiment.
Is full of fear.
But you're writing in the book, it's not gloom and doom. It's a wonderful
funny.
story.
Yeah.
It's very, very funny. Very light.
Well, I think, the reason I wrote it is that most of these books are a little bit more on the sad side. And they're all, so many of them, most of them are about women taking care of their mothers and their saintly mothers and saintly women. And we are very human here. And we've had our ups and downs. And the reason I could write it is that people would see us together who hadn't seen us together for a very long time, and they would say, "You all are so funny together." And so when I realized that we could be kind of a quirky comedy team, then it made me realize that I could write a book that wasn't just sad.
Do you call her Betty?
Oh, yeah, always.
And have you always done that? I mean, well, you said always. But I mean, even as a child, you called your mother Betty?
Yeah, I did.
Why? Where'd that come from?
I don't know why. I mean, I don't know. It's like mommy didn't seem right, or sometimes I called her mama. But I think that I was an only child. I grew up around adults, and I was a little bit, I was an adult pretty young, and Betty was a person to me, and maybe that has something to do with the fact that I always used her name.
And she had her ideas of lifestyle. You had your own ideas of lifestyle. Living in New York, it's more fast-paced. And that must have been an adjustment when you moved back to be with her on both sides.
Well, I say at a certain time in the book that the book is about two Americas colliding, hers and mine. And mine being, big city, liberal, gay, sophisticated, and her more small town world, more conservative, more the kind of, existence that you found in the past. And so, there was a certain amount of adjustment. There was an adjustment in terms of the people who I was encountering.
Did you?
But I never didn't like it.
Did your mother realize you were gay?
Yeah. I came out to her a long time ago, but we didn't really talk about it. Okay. And she was. I don't know. My mother didn't talk about personal things, even with me, and it wasn't just the gay thing. It was. Yeah. My mother didn't reveal her feelings very easily, and I don't think she taught me to reveal mine.
George,
that's hard.
I knew this was going to be a sweet interview, and I wish it was longer. The book is called Bettyville. It is really a touching book, and even the cover is just a touching cover. I have a copy of it. Call me if you want. That was the one that was sent to us. George, do you have a website?
Go on Facebook, George Hodgman, author, Hodgman.
Okay,
no
Hodg, no E, Man. George, thank you so much for being on there, and we'll talk to you soon again, I hope.
Thank you. you.
All right, we'll be right back.
Primary day in New Hampshire.
Marco Rubio is confident about how things will turn out here today.
We feel real good. We're going to finish strong here, and we're going to head to South Carolina.
But New Jersey Governor Chris Christie says Rubio shouldn't be.
I think you're going to be very surprised. The momentum is in our direction. It's been that way since the debate ended on Saturday night.
While Jeb Bush seems to be worried about something else, the 44% of New Hampshire voters not affiliated with a political party.
Fox Radio's Tanya J. Powers for Democrats.
Bernie Sanders has a 54 to 40% advantage over Hillary Clinton.
A search for answers underway after a deadly accident in southern Germany. 2 passenger trains in a head-on collision, killing 9 people. And scientists